Welcome, everybody. Welcome to all participants that are entering in our webinar. In 1 minute, we are going to start. So just to wait for everybody to enter, and then we're going to start. Welcome, everybody. You can write your name in the chat if you want. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. You can see also our information from Jessica in order to let you interact with us. Welcome, everybody. I think it's time to start for today. This afternoon, we are going to discover together the 4 key factors for an effective L&D. So we are ready to start, and just to present myself, I'm Chiara Barbieri, and I'm going to present you all the figures that we find out when we held our survey. This survey is called 4 Key Factors for Effective L&D, and we held in June, July, after the lockdown period. And so we want to share with you our information, our figures, and most of all, also we want to share with you what are the insights we can give you as Segos Group to you. Because I think we are very lucky as a consultant to do this work, because we have a particular point of view on the organizations. We understand before what are the needs, what are the trends, and so we can help you in this very, very tough moment to understand what you can do in order to be very effective in managing L&D. And so we are ready to start. Just to share with you the sample, because we did this survey. We had a lot of respondents, as you can see, and most of them were from the majority was from HR and training people. So we have a lot of this kind of people, but also some CEOs, some sales and marketing manager, and other people. The size of the company were really very different, because we had small and medium company, but also very large company. And as you can see, the segmentation is very, very good, because we have the insight of every kind of company and of a type of company. So it's very interesting also from this point of view. What I'm going to do now is to present to you our panelists, and then I'm going to ask them what they can tell us about the future of L&D and on these 4 key factors. So welcome to Jesus Araujo, Emanuel Castellani, and also Francis Marshall and Ricardo Martins. Now I am happy to give the word to Jesus Araujo. And so please, Jesus, what can you tell us about the budget? Because I know budget is very tough for every company. So what can we tell to the companies? What are the insights we can give to them?
Let's see what we can do regarding this important item. In this 6 minutes introduction, Chiara, I will try to share with all of you why a budget is a basic indicator to understand how important your talent is in your organization, and also how a budget talks about your strategy, your leadership, or about your capabilities to run, to support, or to execute your business. I would say that in this amazing VUCA environment, Almost everything is changing. I will not bore you about how fast or deep are these changes taking place. It's a fact that in this context, training, or maybe better, I would say learning, is a must for any single professional or organization. And it is an endless process. In this, I would say that also in this liquid ecosystem, I think we agree that it's absolutely challenging on a daily basis to match our talent to our business requirement. Talent and business have a very, very strong link. We call it performance. Let me remark the word performance. There is 100% correlation between people and organizational performance. In other words, between competitiveness and employability. And in Segus, we really do believe on this. Let me challenge you. Is every project in our organization connected straight to business performance? I'm sure somehow they are, or hope so. In other words, our people performance is crucial to achieve the expected results. For instance, nobody doubts that reskilling and upskilling are levers to drive and to thrive your business. Let's go one step ahead. If we do agree that our people are the most important asset, and this asset has to be managed properly, and even more in this difficult context, then the way we manage our talent should be as strategic decisions to be made, should be supported by a plan involving the top decision makers. And of course, it should be supported by enough resources in terms of quantity and quality. If we want to succeed, every goal has to have a plan and a budget, and specifically a budget presented to any stakeholders clarifies how important is HR in your organization and how important is your project, and again and again and over again, how important is performance for us, for our teams, for our businesses. And this is because what we do speaks louder than what we say. That is what a budget is all about. Doing instead of saying. In a simple way, we would say that the budget has to reflect what do we want to achieve, how much will it cost, so forth. It's true, but again, it's not enough. One step ahead. For some people, budget is really very boring, something boring indeed. Something I have to do, just a document to be fulfilled. And now a big but. But for those who want to performance for real, budget is about projecting the future, which means vision. It's about goals. Goals are decided by business decision makers. It's about action plan to ensure performance. And for real, this expression, in this case, means that we transform goals into results, and we do this for real. Vision, business decision making, for real performance. What are we really talking about? We are talking about leadership, yes. Budget is about leadership. But we are also talking about trust, because we do not trust those who do not fulfill their promises. And performance is a promise to our stakeholders. My colleagues will go deeper on how to achieve performance. To finish, from my understanding, to run, to support, to execute a business or a project, a budget has to be a must, because supporting the business is not the same as to lead the business. Sometimes a budget can be the difference between becoming a business leader or a business gambler. HR professionals have the challenge to become business decision makers, business leaders, rather than business supporters or purely business partners. If we stay focused on performance, I'm 100% sure that HR professionals will become once and for all business leaders. At this amazing moment, businesses need HR professionals on your budget more than ever. Thanks so much. Chiara.
Thank you, Jesus. Very, very interesting. If you have any question, you can write your question for Jesus in a Q&A by pushing on the Q&A button. So you can do it when you want, or during the presentation, or after. We will have a moment for the Q&A. Now I would like to share with you the figures that we find out when we conduct our survey. First of all, I would like to share with you these data that the question was, in the current post-lockdown scenario related to the emergency, how strategic is training? So what are the answers of our sample? We can start from the bottom, because we can see that there are a lot of companies, 11% of companies that believe the training budget will be postponed. That's not a very good news, but luckily we have 60% of companies that understand that the budget maybe will have some changes, but they don't want to stop training programs. And at the top of that, we have 1/3 of companies that think that L&D, so investments in L&D, can be strategic, so they can help the companies and people working with them in order to be able to gain better results. And that's very, very interesting, because I think we have some companies that understand what they can do in order to grow and thrive also in difficult times. It's interesting also seeing that there are some differences among countries, and this can be related to the emergency itself, but also to how companies are looking at this experience. I would like also to show you why these companies that seems to be more strategic, why they decided to increase budget addressed to training. They need to invest in skills that are strategic for business. So the idea is to help to deliver a better business, and also to increase business and company growth, and also the decrease of the workload. So these are the reasons why this kind of company make the decision of implementing more budget in these difficult times. Now I would like, before answering to your question, we have some other question for you, and I'm going to launch a poll. You can see now on the screen the questions, and now you can also choose what is the right answer for you. The first one is, what is the main challenge you have to face to increase learning investment? And so if you think for you, what is the main challenge you have to face for increasing the learning investments? The first reason can be, I'm not convinced that is the right moment for doing it. Maybe it's not easy to persuade HR leaders, it's not their priority, or maybe it's not easy to persuade business leaders, it's not their priority. And when you succeed, so when you were able to increase your learning investment, what did you do? With access to training funds, we focused on the impact of the training on performance. We create a culture where L&D is always a priority, or last but not the least, we focus on current issues to be solved for helping performance. So I can see that 1/3 has already voted. I give you some other moments to vote. I know that you have to pick up what is the question, that the answers, pardon, that is more related to what is your experience. And so please vote. We are ready to close the poll in 30 seconds. So vote, vote, vote. Okay, I can see you are still voting, so I would like to have some other votes so that everybody can give their point of view. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. No, I'm not launching a shuttle, so I'm going to close now the vote and to show you the results. So ready, steady, go. These are the results. So it seems that it's not easy to persuade business leaders because it's not their priority. And it seems that when you succeed, the majority of people says that you focused on the impact of the training on performance. But also there is, it's interesting also the second and the third one, because they are quite the same. We create a culture where L&D is always a priority, and we focus on current issues to be solved for helping performance. So very, very interesting. Also your point of view and your experience. And now we are going to move on, and we arrive to the second to the second content we are going to discover today, that is related to methods. Welcome, Emanuele.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Well, thanks for introducing me. I'm Emanuele Castellani. I'm the CEO for Segos Italy and for Southeast of Asia from the office of Singapore. And I'm going to spend these 6 minutes with you. I see we are more than 300 participants now on conversational sharing about modalities, training modalities. And I will start with a simple, very simple assumptions. Segos is a training company, and at Segos we are all very, very committed. We all love training. And we have the idea that training is a must for our lives and for the work as well. And if I think to HR departments, everybody in the HR departments, and they love training, they love the L&D, or they should. It's normal. But I ask you, what about all the rest of the world? Are they convinced that training, learning is really crucial, vital, important to improve the quality and the effectiveness of their lives? On the other side, I observe that companies today, they are looking for productivity more than ever. And these can only come from new behaviors. So to have new behaviors, there has to be learnings. So something goes wrong, because on one side, we have companies looking for performance that can come from new behaviors. New behaviors can come from learnings, and learnings can come from trainings. But people are not convinced that training is a crucial point to improve their life and work as well. So what's wrong? I really think this is the real reason why we are talking about training modalities today. Because we know very well that we have to adapt the way we do training to the way of how people learn. And we were trainers in 1926. We are trainers today. So we have adapted our way of training to the way people learned from time to time. And we have always kept the person at the core of our strategy. So it's clear that we cannot separate the idea of learning from the idea of effort. Maybe we can separate from the idea of sacrifice, okay? But it is also clear that digital, because we always talk about digital in training, digital will not solve the concept of how challenging can be learning if we are really committed to the changing of our old behaviors into new ones. Okay, that said, I cannot imagine training today without involving digital. So the very crucial point is that the discussion about digital in training, discussion about yes or no, doesn't make sense anymore today. The new relevant questions maybe are how can we include digital in training? How much? Which kind of digital? How can we ensure that the digital learning helps the behavioral change over time? And what's the right blend between digital and learning, and working on the job place? Okay. So it's time to move the conversation ahead, and I suggest you 4 key pillars. The first one is that the crucial point about digital learning is the difference from synchronous to non-synchronous training. Second point is that the training concept has to be expanded to the idea of a journey and an idea of experience, and these can be possible through digital learning. The third point is that the interaction between participants and the trainers is really crucial to generate engagement. But this is not enough to ensure that every learning goes to change the behavior and this leading to a better performance. Because, fourth point, transformation is necessary. And these can be ensured with support during the training and during the implementation phase. Okay, so what's the conclusion of my speech today? My conclusion is that the projecting phase is the most important concept. I mean, a training to be impactful has to be well projected. And this means that first, digital and face-to-face have to be mixed accurately. Then different kinds of digital learning can be used according to the outcome that is desired. Third, training and working moments can be mixed to boost learning, and this is possible, as I said before, through digital, expanding the concept of training, the idea of training, to a journey. And fourth, the engagement can be enhanced through digital learning. And fifth, also the reinforcement formats can really help people to apply what they learn. Okay, so I really think we need to promote or reinforce the idea, the culture of how to project an effective training program. And I suggest you some key questions for which you must have a reply. For example, why is it important to start up a project with something that makes clarity to the participant of the ambition of the project, maybe through a trigger video, for example? What's the advantage that can be associated to the face-to-face training, even if compared to the higher cost in terms of logistics? What's the difference between face-to-face training and virtual classroom? When to use one and when to use the other? And what's the difference between virtual classroom and webinars? Or for example, what's the difference between webinars and e-learning modules, considering that both of them can be used for thousands of participants and to train people at the same time or in a short period of time. And for example, what's the difference from e-learning module to other tools like documents, video, something that can be read by participants at home at night before sleeping? Okay, so all these questions, and I'm going to the conclusion, all these questions must have an answer. And from my point of view, the answer is that projecting of training has to be done by experts today more than ever, because today we have more alternatives than yesterday.
Thank you, Emanuele. Very, very interesting. It seems that we have to develop new competencies also in developing a training. Yeah. And I think it's related to what I'm going to show to you now, that are the figures we discover thanks to the market, what the market is saying. Pardon. This is the proportion of a presential and digital training choice. As you can see, most companies are using mainly digital during this during this year, and they also think that are going to use digital training also for the next year. Please keep in mind that these figures are related to the summer, so I think there would be some changes, because I think also the next year we are going to use digital. What is interesting also is that there are differences between countries. That are countries that are more digital than others. As you can see, UK is more digital, and it is less presential, while Italy seems to be the less convinced in using digital. What is interesting, I think, is that as Emanuele was saying, they want to be a challenge, as the majority of company is saying that 55% of them are saying that they are going to use both digital and presential. So as you can see also from this data, there is a huge amount of companies that is using digital training. That is 88%. That is very, very high. And we can see also that they use every kind of digital training, because we have webinars, we have learning modules, we have virtual classroom and videos, etc., etc. As you can see, the majority of all companies use this kind of digital solution. And what is the satisfaction of the companies? We can see the satisfaction is good, especially for virtual classroom and webinars, and also for e-learning. I think that we can do a lot because high satisfaction is 27%. That is good, but it's not so good, I think, because we really, I think the training market can improve on that. Let's come to the Q&A, because I'm curious to have also your point of view. What can we suggest as Segos Group to help the companies in order to increase the satisfaction? So in order to arrive to a high satisfaction from satisfaction that is good but not still high. I'm curious to ask to our panelists, so Emanuele, Jesus, Francis, and Ricardo, please switch on your cameras. Okay. So this is the Q&A time for you. I would like to make the first question. That is, what can we do, Emanuele? You were speaking about this. What can we do to implement satisfaction about virtual training? What can we suggest to the market?
Well, coming from the survey, no? And if I can read the survey, and if I go through the feedback coming from the thousands of virtual classrooms we are doing these weeks, it seems that the key factors for satisfactions are the interaction between the trainer and the participants. But I would say this interaction does not come by itself. It comes from the projecting, as I said during my speech. If a virtual classroom is well projected, is well built, I mean, in terms of moments, in terms of architecture of the classroom, then it automatically leads to people to interact with the trainer. And this is the most important factor from my point of view, which nearly cancel the difference between virtual classroom and face-to-face training. I cannot say 100%, of course, but virtual classroom becomes really similar to face-to-face training if it is really appropriately built.
Yeah, I agree. Sure. And I have also a question for you, Jesus, because reading the Q&A, I can see Isabella is asking, what is your best advice to ensure in C-level today actually invest versus spend money on L&D?
Well, I think this is a great question, of course. And I've got a magic word. It's called performance. It's called results. My advice to Isabella would be to show to any stakeholder what they are going to get from this project, from this budget. Because if this project or a budget show that is really an investment, nobody reject a good investment. And I think performance is the key word. I would insist on that.
Okay, thank you. Jesus, I have another question for you. It seems that your intervention created a lot of questions. Christina is asking, which will be the main challenge when we will have to make the budget for the next year?
Maybe I would say two different things. Once in terms of really figures. And again, we need to show that when we invest or spend, I would prefer to say invest because it's completely different than to spend. Any coin at this tough time, as you said, Chiara, in the introduction, we need to feel that we have to show that really this coin is to get a better result for any stakeholder, not only for shareholders, but for our teams, for our suppliers, for everyone who is linked to our operation. I think it's quite important. But also, I would say in this crazy environment, Chiara, there is a big challenge. A VUCA environment means uncertainty. Uncertainty means that we have a lack of visibility. Then there is a risk. The risk is that we need to keep in mind that going fast is not the same as rushing. And at this time, we need to make decisions about many things very quickly because everything looks like to be crazy. And we should to be cautious. We need to analyze. We need to have clear priorities. And we need to make decisions about where do we want to go what do we want to achieve, and what's the best way to do that. The lack of visibility maybe is the great challenge, and becoming analysts and decision makers, I think, is the solution.
Yes, I think it's not easy in this moment when everything changes continuously, and so really we have to understand.
Chiara, may I interrupt you?
Yes, sure.
Just a moment, because I saw in the poll that if you look at the answers of both questions, is quite aligned, quite related what we said at the very first issue about this study survey, is about leadership. If you look at the answers, almost 80% of the people answer that it's not easy to convince leaders. I think this has to be a challenge in the organizations.
Yeah.
Positioning, training, HR function at the very top. This is why I insist on transforming HR functions from HR VPs into HR business leaders.
Yeah. We can have a change mind and understanding what is the real challenge for companies and helping companies to succeed.
Chiara, may I? Because
yes, sure.
I'm reading in the Q&A session. There's a question for me from Isabella.
Yes.
How is Segos incorporating and evolving L&D using effective cutting-edge science-based approaches to impact learning culture, and how is evidence being mixed in multi-channel learning approaches?
Seems interesting.
Nice question. So the difficult one is for me today. It's another difficult one, in fact. Thanks, Isabella, for this question. Well, I would say 3 years ago, Segos has developed a new learning approach whose name is For Real. And in fact, Jesus said For Real 3-4 times during your speech. I really,
of course,
paid attention to that. Of course, you're paid for that.
Not yet.
Sorry. And it comes from the application of the neuroscience. There is evidence today more than ever of how our brain works, how we learn, and how it is more possible that what we learn can really be implemented, put in practice. Okay, I mean, transforming learnings to behaviors. And this comes from, of course, the place where you learn, the way you learn, how you are engaged, and of course the length of the journey. That's the reason why we have developed two different kinds of solution. One is let's say presential or blended solution, including face-to-face moments. Another one is a full digital solution, whose name is App, and it's a solution that involves participants for many weeks, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks along the journey, and it also involves the participant, the manager, during working moments and learning moments, using also the concept of sprint. Okay, so the concept of sprint, that is something you can learn and apply immediately. So not to make it too complicated, but it's a sort of learning through exercise, through implementation, through studying, and through sharing, and so on. I see there's another. I don't know, Isabella, if my reply is enough. It's if I'm really answering to your question. I have another one. Helder was asking maybe to me, who is answering to the satisfaction level of that survey, because I mentioned that there is a high satisfaction. We asked to both participants and HR, the sponsors. Participants normally have an average of 9.2, 9.3 out of 10 in terms of evaluation, so it's a high evaluation. And same applies to sponsors. So it's I mean, it's both sides.
So thank you, Emanuele and Jesus. If you have other question, you can write down, and we will have another Q&A session after. I think thank you really, because I think we are going to understand better what are the figures I am showing to you, and also how can we use figures to build a better future. Next slot is related to something that is very, very important for for the future of L&D, and is contents, because everybody speaks a lot about content, and content is key in the training. And welcome to Ricardo Martins, who is going to tell a little bit more about how contents can be linked to COVID emergency, and what are the contents companies are asking to us.
So
Ricardo.
Thank you, Chiara. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Ricardo Martins. I am Managing Director for Segos Portugal. And following on what has already been said by my colleagues concerning key factors for effective L&D, I would like to address this issue in the few minutes that Chiara has given me, more from a learning content perspective, as she said, okay, and share with you some of the specific findings we gathered from our survey by looking at it from, a content demand perspective, either directly or indirectly linked to COVID-19's lockdown period. What were the contents that emerged throughout the first wave of the ongoing global pandemic? And from there, I suggest we build on three overarching conclusions, views, if you prefer, on how to approach the need to rapidly learn new subjects or skills while still having to strive, or at least survive, when it comes to leveraging performance and return on learning against the pressures of a global crisis. So, what are the main learning contents that L&D managers from organizations across these 4 countries asked us to cover, and actually said they would need to pursue even more after the lockdown period to achieve their goals? Bluntly put, to better face the challenges of the new scenario, organizations from across these 4 countries mainly chose to focus on developing soft skills, both related to management and personal development, but as well, quite expectedly, soft skills linked to the COVID-19 emergency. So learning contents that organizations believe they should acquire for their employees in the post-lockdown period mainly concerns things like new models and distance relational styles, communicating through crisis, smart working, remote everything from remote working to remote management, passing through remote selling. These were the concepts we delivered and are asked more and more of us nowadays. So I would like to pick up on these survey results to start off by stating the first overarching conclusion we have derived from them, okay? And the conclusion is that just in time, as opposed to just in case learning, is critical if you want to strive in today's ambiguity. Yeah? So the question is, should our people learn new things just in case we need them in the future, or should we learn the things we need just in time when we realize we need them? Okay, the just in case versus just in time terminology actually stems from inventory management. Companies like Toyota pioneered just in time inventory management and manufacturing, which meant short lead times, low overhead, lean manufacturing as a whole. The analogy actually carries quite well to learning new things. Just in case learning at an extreme is basically what you get out of school or out of college, I mean, you learn a wide variety of things that you probably will not need to use anytime soon. The problem with this is that, yeah, well, you may never actually need the things you are learning, or they might not come up in your career or your life soon enough. Yeah, they might become irrelevant over time. You will probably even forget most of what you've learned unless you consciously refresh this knowledge, which is, let's say, really inefficient if you think about it. And then finally, if you actually, we know that we actually learn better when there is a clear, immediate need that you care about because your mind is more engaged with that learning. Okay, so in the other extreme of just-in-case learning is what we can call just-in-time learning, which avoids, I would say, the most part of these pitfalls. The obvious downside, however, is that sometimes that lead time means you don't really have the knowledge ready right when you need it. But then again, in today's reality, it seems like a small price to pay compared to wasteful, so to speak, just-in-case learning. So here's the gist of it. Instead of immersing yourself in a knowledge that you'll maybe someday use, just-in-time learning is about soaking up the information and insights that will pay immediate dividends. It's all about strategically aligning your soft skills offering to create an instant impact, if you want, on the projects that are most pressing to you or to your organization, and leveraging the people and resources around you to absorb that knowledge faster, okay, without falling down the rabbit hole of chasing shiny learning objects, so to speak, okay? And as a kicker, since they're implementing the knowledge right away and engaging with other experts to reinforce this knowledge, not only will people learn things quicker, but they'll also retain them for longer. So this is the first overarching conclusion that I would like to suggest for our conversation later on. Second overarching conclusion, when it comes to content management, okay, and how much of it should we put on the learner's plate, so to speak, less can actually be more, as long as it is just enough, and not too much of it. Okay, and here I beg of you a little bit of patience, but as L&D managers, we can get pretty damn obsessive about how to increase growth and learning by piling up our people, and even ourselves for that matter, with as much content we can possibly squeeze into a training session. Same goes for digital content bought from providers with those very hot titles from business bestseller lists, even though we secretly, or sometimes even a little bit shamefully, know that despite the lockdown stay-at-home period, or perhaps even more so because of it, everyone is still struggling to find the time and the mental space to finally catch up on all those latest digital reads, okay? And, I would say that whilst this is true, as L&D managers, we're actually also pretty devout and to find deficiencies and maximizing return on every L&D investment that we do, which kind of makes it feel a little bit crazy that we haven't managed to do both things at the same time. Okay, so having said that, I would like to respectfully suggest that besides COVID-19, we have another very serious crisis in our learning and development landscape. Okay, one that we've actually all tried to act upon for years with less success than we would like to admit. And this is that people today have access to more knowledge and have more content about soft skills, leadership, management, you name it, than anyone has had in the history of mankind. And still, there is a huge gap between knowing better and doing more. What we teach simply isn't sufficiently transferred, practiced, or used in the workplace. And one of the first reasons why people don't actually apply what they are learning or what they have learned or already know is that it's always more fun to try the next great thing, learn something new, than it is to struggle to properly implement and actually do what you already know and have learned in the past. And this is even more so when it comes to soft skills, okay? So as a result, what we have is, I would say, an information overload. So what can we do or what can we suggest, if you prefer, you can do to lessen this barrier and head forward? Well, I would say that you can apply the less is more philosophy also to training, okay? Focus on less content and stick to it over time. Work on it over time, okay? And this would be the second, I would say, overarching conclusion. The third one, and I'm walking towards the end here, is that it's a conclusion that relates to what is increasingly called just for me learning. And it addressed the growing need for content personalization. In the past 20 years, we all know this, digital technology has altered or actually completely transformed several businesses. Our business is exactly the same. The global L&D landscape is no stranger to digital transformation, and it is also undergoing dramatic changes, even more so as a consequence of COVID-19, I would say, due to which a considerable proportion of these changes must be, if they haven't already, be highly accelerated. If nothing else, COVID-19 has actually made the value of having an integrated digital learning strategy quite tangible, right? As opposed to simply resorting to occasional e-learning modules to fill in minor training gaps. The strategic value of partnering with organizations that not only invest in increasing soft skills content availability in digital formats, but also do so in a way that effectively impacts the learner's experience in his or her journey from skills to performance is now greater than ever and increasingly urgent, I would say. So mass scale full personalization is not really entirely possible, okay? But at least technology supported smart learning contents that provide appropriate support in the right places at the right time based on the needs of the individual learners by examining their learning behaviors and their learning performances in the context in which they are actually situated can already be done and is, I would say, in my opinion, a gigantic step forward. Okay, at a minimum, choice-based learning contents where by design learners participate in their own learning process, taking control and orchestrating their own learning path, so to speak, already allows for a significant increase in learners' engagement and reinforces a more active learning experience. So in a nutshell, okay, first of all, implement just in time as opposed to just in case learning if you want to strive in today's ambiguity. Second, choose to give more or give less, but be sure you are giving just enough and not more than enough learning to your people, okay? And last but not least, make it just for me, or at the very least, let me choose how, what, when I want to learn. Okay, so this is what I would like to share with you. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to answer some questions further on ahead, and passing it on to Chiara.
Thank you, Ricardo. Very, very interesting. I'm going to show our audience some figures that are the data we collected from the market during our survey, because I would like also to share with you what are the main training goals organization will pursue in the next future. Ricardo already known the figures, but as you can see, we have the majority of companies that want to update or align soft skills linked to management and personal development, and also to update skills in regard to challenge linked to COVID-19 emergency. Both of them are soft skills, and we have also the 38% of companies that think to work also on hard skills linked to roles. As you can see from on the right, there are differences from country to country, but if we add the violet and the blue part, we can see that is always the majority of training goals that are now in companies that replied to our survey. Also interesting is what are the most urgent topics we surveyed, and we find out that we can see that new models and distance relational styles are at the very top of the list with 41%, and smart working is at the second top of the list. You can see also the results related to the countries, and we see also remote management for Italy, communicating for Portugal, decision making for Spain, and smart working that seems to be the huge demand for UK. So as you can see, the companies has the need to understand what can be the soft skill in order to manage this very, very difficult time. And we had the opportunity to help a lot of company in this kind of challenge. And also we have find out some soft skills that can be really important for the future. So I would like to ask to you, in your opinion, what are the soft skills you, as a company, you think are more urgent in your company? These are the 7 soft skills Segos with its studies understand are very important for the companies for the future. It's creativity and innovation, initiative and entrepreneurship, digital communication, remote collaboration, efficient work organization, and agility and adaptability. And we have also the last one that is very related to what we were saying before with Riccardo, that is learning to learn, understanding what is very important to me in this moment, be responsible also for my learning. I see you are beginning to answer to these questions. In this case, you can, it's a multiple choice question, so you can pick up all the soft skills you think are very important for the future of your company. So I give you a little more time to answer to this question. I think 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's close the vote. It's my TV moment. Okay, let's close the vote. And here you are, the results. Very, very interesting. Agility and adaptability seems to be the very important soft skill for the future. We can see also that creativity and innovation is the second one. So we can understand how this kind of soft skills are very, very important for the future. Thank you for your answers. And then you will have also the opportunity to do some questions to Riccardo during the Q&A session. So we are ready to come to the last factor, that are the trends. Welcome also to Francis Marshall, CEO at Segos UK. Here we are, Francis.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's been fascinating listening to my colleagues today. And it's also fascinating to know how incredibly well aligned we all are here at Segos. So that's been great for me. But I just want to start by telling you that I've worked in learning and development since way back in 1987. And I'm going to talk to you about the trends that have come out of this survey. But also I'm going to be looking backwards as well as forwards. I want to spend a short time just giving you the chance to sit back, challenge some thinking around learning trends, which have been common themes, certainly for me, throughout my entire career. So following trends is something that not all learning and development professionals have truly embraced. Or should I say following the right trends? I think Riccardo said, moving on to the next shiny thing. And for a very, very long time, we've seen a trend in learners seeking digital solutions for training. And in fact, throughout my career, digitization has been a mega trend. I've seen the move from using clear plastic acetates that you put onto an overhead projector through to freelance, who remembers that, to PowerPoint. And now we've got highly engaging interactive digital tools like H5P, and we're using those in the classroom. So it has been a trend that's been with us for a long time. But it's clear to me that when you look at a lot of the surveys, learning and development has not totally kept pace with learner demand and desire for digital learning. Now, this isn't true everywhere. If you look at technical training, that really has embraced digital learning in a big way. And I work with a number of customers that have augmented reality and all of the other things going on. But in the world of soft skills, we've been a little bit slower, I think, to move. And COVID has changed this to some degree. And I believe now is the time for us to sit back and take stock. So although I've been in L&D for a very long time, it's not as long as our good friend Socrates, the philosopher. You'll know that for Socrates, learning was all about critical thinking, reasoning, and logic. And through great questioning, he helped the learner in real time discover their own answers. I call it promoting discovery, which is a highly effective way of learning. But knowing isn't enough. We have to do. And so the trend has to be for promoting discovery in the same way Socrates did, so that we can own our own solutions. But then we need experimentation. We need to get comfortable with a new skill. We need to learn over time so that we're building on our learning and building on our experience all the way through. We need to be able to transfer skills to the workplace and make a difference for ourselves and for the companies that we work for. I want to challenge you in a friendly way and ask you to think about the trends that I think are important right now and that could be vital ingredients in terms of the way that you look at soft skills and the digitization of training. Firstly, a plea from my heart is to have more Socratic managers. Not a manager that just tells, but a manager that opens the mind of the people that they lead, opens their minds to the possibility of learning and to the possibility of doing something differently. Many, many years ago, when I started my career, I used to spend my Sunday evenings in training rooms, launching management development programs. I always asked the question, were you briefed by your line manager and did you agree your personal objectives for the training this week? I'm sure there are a lot of people on the call who can guess the answer was not usually positive. And today, 33 years later, I'm coaching people as part of their programs. And it seems to me that managers are still not being active enough around the training of their teams. So why is this? Well, to help with this problem, we've introduced managers' pathways a few years ago, where the manager gets a better overview of the learning that should be taking place. And this has a positive impact upon their willingness to engage in their people's training paths. Often the feedback we get from those managers is, why didn't I get this training when I was going through my career? So it's a double whammy. It's got major benefits. Think about what you can do to give your managers short, sharp, just-in-time training so that they can coach their own people who are going through the program. It is really time, using digitalized approaches, for us to hold managers accountable and for them to play a strong, powerful and influential role in the learning of the people. That's my first challenge. My next challenge is, how do you make digitized learning stick? We used to think that cramming was a great idea, forcing knowledge into our minds. And we all know about the forgetting curve, but now we're discovering through research from the University of Washington and other great educational establishments that people actually learn more after they've had a short period of forgetting. So they're revisiting what they learned. Now, bear with me, because I've noticed there's a trend in the music industry, which I think has some insight for learning and development today if we're prepared to think laterally. When we first started to stream music, it was adopted incredibly quickly, and people predicted the death of the music album. And for a while that seemed to be true. But I've noticed recently that the album is back, and recording artists are talking about it all the time. They are talking about how they're building albums rather than individual songs. Learning over time. And I've got teenage daughters, and they won't like me for going public on this, but they are fans of Taylor Swift. And she released a new album this summer, Folklore, that actually tells a story about her life. So think about it in terms of the learning that we're giving people. The album is back as an experience rather than a short, sharp single or a series of pop singles. So how do you build your digital learning pathway so that learning is built over time, ensuring that the participant relearns and remembers and develops better understanding over a period of time rather than just as a one-hit wonder? And finally, how do we make sure that the tools and approaches that we use help and provide a framework for people to safely transfer learning to the workplace? Because people like Jesus will be very happy that the learning's been transferred and the budget has been well spent and the business benefits. Because if we transfer it to the workplace, we can see success, we can measure success. So I hope this has given you food for thought. And I'm looking forward to any questions that you may have. And now I'm handing back to you, Yara. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis. Very, very interesting. I remember to all of the audience that you can write in the chat or in the Q&A box the questions you want to ask to Francis, to Ricardo, and also to Emanuele and Jesus if you have any other question. Now I'm going to share with you the results of the survey related to the trends we asked to the market. This is what the company said to us. The first question was if a regulatory framework allow presential training again. Would your organization incline to involve one intercompany training or more employees in training projects? So this was the question. So what is the trend related to what do you intend to do in the future? As you can see, it was possible to put multiple choices. They will continue to with digital training only foster smart working. It is something that is in Portugal is quite high. They will be only use digital training to the budget reduction. And this is the UK more chosen answer. As soon as it's possible, they will organize presential training projects. That is the Italian answer. And they are confident that the next autumn, the regulatory framework will allow the presential training again. And this is Italy again. As you can imagine, this is an answer that can change in the last days. The second one is related to what is the trend of organization toward distance approach made up by synchronous and asynchronous moments. The majority seems to have already adopted this kind of training. What Italy seems to be a little bit on late, trying to test it, but they want also the additional information. And arriving to the last question, very interesting, related to what are the most important aspects in determining an effective training experience. So what are, in the opinion of our audience, of our sample, what are the aspects that make the training effective? As you can see, we speak about active engagement and interaction with trainer. That is very, very high. Stable and user-friendly web platform. So technology is also important, and also slideshow, but it seems to be less important than the other two. So we learn from these figures that active engagement is very, very important for doing an effective training. So we have another time for a Q&A, and so I ask to our panelists to switch on their cameras, and we are ready. I'm ready to read the questions that came from our audience. I don't know if you already saw a question you are trained to answer to.
There are
Ricardo.
many questions coming from the audience.
Yeah, Ricardo,
we still have 285 people connected. And
yes.
great satisfaction.
Ricardo, I don't know if you had the opportunity to read, and you can want to pick up.
Yes, I've got one here from Isabella. Thanks for being so active, Isabella. The question is, the COVID-19 topics are fabulous. I understand that these were contents which were requested by clients. Yes, absolutely, and have been requested by clients over the lockdown period and are being now. What 1-2 content topics do you think company leaders and managers need in this phase of the pandemic, but have not yet been requested? In other words, what content topics are company leaders and managers missing? This is a very good question. Thanks a lot for putting it, Isabella. I would say, well, during the lockdown, everything that was about remote. It was about remote working, remote managing, remote selling. Remote was a word that was in all the contents almost, because everybody was in lockdown. Now we're facing a second wave, and in the second wave, this is probably going to be hopefully not a lockdown period, but this is also going to be a challenge. I understand, and just looking into what was the results of the survey when it comes to budget, 60% will not of companies that answers will not stop programs that they believe are essential. Now, learning how to work at a distance and being effective, being in this telepresence world, being effective at building proximity with your clients, building proximity with your colleagues is essential. Okay, and looking into what I would say business leaders still need to understand is, how can I maintain a culture that is, completely built on yesterday's performance, in yesterday's way of working in an office, now that we are all going into a remote work mindset. Okay, and for me, for instance, in the poll that was done, it is interesting that you have at the first point agility and adaptability. And for instance, I've been working with many companies in these months that have said, we need to get people to be able to work on Zoom, work on Teams. How do we get people to be able to sell through these tools? And we actually built programs around them, only to discover that for many people, it wasn't necessarily Zoom or Teams that was the barrier. They did not have the first essential notion of what was remote conversations. They had actually to learn or relearn how to do this in a way that builds trust. Okay, and then again, if you go into the second point of contact, creativity and innovation, yes, this opens a space of creativity and innovation. So how, just going back to the just in time versus just in case, how are we able to do this now that we actually need it very much so, and in a way that is going to build in capabilities into our people that they hopefully should already bring, but if they don't, they just need to learn it in as timely manner as possible. So yes, there's a lot of content out there that I would say is interesting and actually can build into these core essential needs in the companies, in the workplace that we're working with.
Thank you, Ricardo. It's very interesting that we need to elevate the kind of soft skills that people develop. It's really a new kind of soft skills, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if anything, soft skills is the one thing that AI and robots will not be better at doing than we are, right? At least for the meantime, we hope. So if in fact people are investing or deciding to invest in soft skills in a just-in-time matter, in a just enough matter, and also in a just for me matter, then hopefully these skills will give us a competitive edge towards the companies or the organizations that do not really invest this much in this kind of skills.
Thank you, Ricardo. Francis, there is a question for you from Helder. Consider how key is the engagement of learners managers. What's missing in your opinion about to get them on board on learning projects? Once learning moments almost always steal time and attention for their teams. So how can we make it more important?
You know, one day I will write a book about this, because it has been the painful part of my career all along. The managers say they want to develop people, but they're not putting the investment into it, their own investment into it. I think there are a number, and obviously under COVID, the biggest excuse is they're too busy. But bearing in mind, in my experience, I've been doing this for 33 years, I don't actually buy that. I think there's, for them, the thing that's unlocked it most, and last week we ran an 8-week blended program, fully digital, obviously, and we had 100% engagement of the managers. And the way we got them to be engaged was we overcame the fear that they didn't know what it was they were meant to be talking about. And so they have we build a parallel pathway so that they get, if you like, just the special sauce, the small bit of the learning. And we also give the manager the questions to ask the learner. Now, it's not a big secret who my favorite philosopher is, although I have to say Seneca is a very, very close second. But so we give them the secret sauce so that they can ask the right questions and gather the evidence. And how do I know that 100% took part? Because we got every single participant to establish what their evidence was, to share it with their manager, get their manager's validation that it was true evidence, and then to load it onto our learning platform as part of a certification and sign-off process. So I think it's about us helping managers. They've never done it. They're in a managerial position where their manager never did it to them. So we have to, there's a favorite phrase in politics at the moment about circuit breakers. We need a circuit breaker that helps managers think differently, but supports them strongly to be able to look good as they learn the new skill of actually taking people through. And that takes me to the point that I saw, I think it was Elena asked a great question about how do you transfer to the workplace? Again, back to the pedagogical approach, you design what you want people to do differently in a work context. We design that up front so that the tasks we expect them to complete at the end of the training is clear before they even come on the training. And so we give 2 or 3 good examples, and we provide job aids and practical tips and things like that. And we leave space for them to obviously have their own examples, but then we follow up. And one of my favorite phrases through my entire career came from a guy called Tom Peters. And he says, people do what you inspect, not what you expect. And so we create the framework that gives us something to inspect. And then we know we're making a difference to a business.
Thank you, Francis. Very, very interesting. It's always a challenge, but I think it's something very important to learn to do in the companies. There are a lot of questions. I pick up the one that has no that is not related to anyone, because I think it's very very interesting. It's related to the content, because I've read it before, because someone was asking, how can I do an agility and adaptability training digital? Because it seems to be something very, very tough.
I saw that, Chiara.
I don't find it, but I like it. So
It's gone. I don't know. It was a great question. And
We're going to reply, Ricardo.
You already replied. Ah, okay.
No,
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me just go back to a little bit of what I was saying, and also I'm trying to answer here Ana Luisa Baltazar when she asks me, do you think that the interests of the companies are aligned with the ones of their employees? I think we're living a time in our history that actually companies and employees, like Manuele was saying, or I think it was either Manuele or Jesus, performance has 100% correlation with the people that are in the company. So it is for sure very important that people look into the way that the companies are structuring, the learning that they're offering, and see that they're also doing it in a way that is beyond the management needs, okay? During the COVID period, we had lots of companies approaching us and saying, mental health is an issue that we'd like to address through a webinar. Can you help us? Can we go back to our people and say, how can you take care of yourself? How can you, concerned with their well-being, how can you actually, find a way to relate to people although you're in lockdown? And this was something that actually touched me. I thought, companies are not all about, or not all companies at least, are all about business. They're also about, and increasingly so, about the purpose related to their people. But then again, going back to the question that has disappeared but was a great one, I was talking about, to overcome the need to really be more effective in learning, we have to act upon, I would say, at least 3 levels of change if we want to increase L&D effectiveness and impact, namely in areas like the ones that we were talking about, about agility and adaptability, but also the other ones. The first one I've already mentioned, so less is more mentality, not too much content, just stick to it, and over time it'll get there. Okay. The second level is actually attitude. Implementing these changes is actually more challenging, as most of us apply what I would say is a negative filtering system. Actually, from childhood, we were educated to really filter in a way that is the yes but attitude. I would say this is a red light thinking attitude. Okay, kind of not being very open to positive attitudes towards fully embracing what I say is change through learning. The answer here is actually train for green light thinking, train people for a strong first positive response, looking at training as something that is actually worthy of their time, worthy of their effort, worthy of their investment. And as an example, what I would say is it's really valuable when designing for learners that we ask ourselves a couple of questions. What problems could this actually help me solve now and in the future? Or even finding ways to let them answer, how can I actually use this? What will I gain if I learned this? And upfront put this in front of people so that they also see that these tools and methodologies can be very helpful. The third level is actually the hardest one. It's behavior. This is the most difficult one. And if we actually want to have impact, we have to see that even people that know that they should change their behavior and have a positive attitude towards it will find it extremely hard to change something where they don't, when they've been doing it for such a long time, they have these habits that are encrusted that really do not allow them to change. So for this, I would say that in the learning planification or in the learning design, besides good contents, besides good reasons for people to learn, besides answering those questions that are more prone to green light thinking, what we have to also install is a strong follow-up system that allows people to then be accompanied. So it's not all about the content, it's also about the modality, the modality. And so having a good system like the one that Emanuele was talking about in our For Real approach or our UP approach, where the manager is just as engaged in the employees or the collaborators learning process, is fundamental. And this actually shows that companies are willing to invest a little bit more so that I, as a colleague or a collaborator or an employee, am more effective in my work and have better performance, because my direct manager is as involved before I go to the training, during my learning process, and even after, when finally somebody says, you have the certification, not only of being present, but actually having acquired the competence. This is, I would say, critical for this transfer of the learning from the learning space to the workplace. And that's it.
Microphone, Chiara.
Thank you, Riccardo. It was also a question for Emanuele, in fact, but I would like to give the word to Francis, because I know he has to add something.
Yeah, I have a board meeting now, so I'm going to go. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this afternoon. It's been great to listen to my colleagues, but also what's really made it for me is the quality of the questions that have come through and the participation. So thank you all very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to enjoying being part of our learning journey as we all go forward. Stay safe. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Francis. Okay, so I don't know, Emanuele, if you want to add your point of view related to what Riccardo was saying, because it also was related to the modality, or if you want to be inspired by another question.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was reading in the Q&A. There was a question for me about the sort of competition between digital and face-to-face training. The question was from Federico, I think, and was asking, in this phase, is evident that digital is winning versus face-to-face. What will be the future like? First of all, it's not a competition. My point of view is that digital and face-to-face will live together as soon as it will be possible, because we've been in lockdown. I don't know what will happen in the next weeks, but I'm sure of one simple thing. If I think about my last 2-3 years, I've been speaking with many clients about, for example, virtual classrooms, or about e-learning modules, or about webinars, about digital in general. And in, let's say, 50-60% of cases, the reply coming from clients was we are not ready. We are not ready, meaning we are still on traditional face-to-face learning. Our population is not used to digital learning, especially for higher profiles, for example, or other comments where something like, we use digital training for other topics, for example, trainings for languages, or for security trainings and so on, but not for behavioral training. That was the market. Today, we have been obliged to go through this digital training. And what has happened is that the population has learned. Also, L&D managers have learned. HR managers have learned. We have learned that something can be done, and can be done very well. So when this emergency situation will be finished, because it will finish for sure, I hope next spring we will be all free to live our previous lives. When everything will be finished, I think that the scenario will be much better than before, because we will be free to choose the best solution we can according to what the market put at disposal. For example, a company like Segos, we will be able to provide any kind of training modality that the innovation landscape can permit. And the market will be ready, our clients will be ready, our participants will be ready. Okay, so I see a future where training will have a higher impact even than before, huh? Because the state of the art, the innovation, will be at disposal for everybody. And I was reading an article on LinkedIn a couple of days ago about Oracle. It was about something like mental health and the interaction with artificial intelligence. I mean, people interacting with artificial intelligence to get better, to feel better. And the artificial intelligence receives so many questions, and that's like a sort of mirroring to the person. I conclude with this. If we are able to improve our mental health, our feeling through artificial intelligence, why cannot we think that we can do all the rest through digital, and also, for example, agility and adaptability? Yeah. The question, because it's a matter of being ready to do it through new tools and through digital as well.
Yes. This morning I delivered a training on that.
Yeah, really?
Virtually.
Yeah. I think there are two questions to be answered. One from Elisa. I think it's a very, very interesting question about how to bridge the gap between learning and behaviors. I think this is really a very interesting question. My answer would be about everything regarding engagement. I think engagement should be something that we need to reinforce and to put on the table at any different training process. And to get this engagement, I think it's quite important at least do two different things. One, to involve this participant on the very first moment about what to be trained, how, when, and so on. I think it's really very, very important. And personalization is important too. I think it's really very, very important, because on the contrary that children, adults, we learn those things that are really useful for us. And I think engagement, I insist, is a very, very important goal we need to achieve. And there is a second question made by Beatriz about how to transform our HR professional into business leaders. I think it's quite important. And I want to answer in a very quick way. The first thing is, please try to be involved, trying to be part of the decision-making process. I think it's important, not just to receive the goals or something like that. You should be part of the decision-making process. The second thing is, show the organization that HR department boosts business. I think it's quite important to collect evidence, to show your stakeholders what we are getting, not only what we are doing. Let's talk about contribution. Let's talk about performance, not about activity. I think it's quite important. And maybe the third thing to make this transformation for real should be, from my perspective, to show the organization that HR people is a great lever to the transformation, to the company transformation strategy. Means short-term in terms of results, long-term in terms of transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesus. So we are ready to conclude this webinar. I don't know if you have just the last sentence for the last message, then I have the conclusion. If you want to add just one suggestion, one thing for our audience. Ricardo,
no doubt.
No
performance.
Doubt.
Performance.
Okay.
Performance.
Jesus says performance. Emanuele says.
My sentence is project your trainings carefully.
Fantastic. Okay, and Ricardo?
I would say just in time, just enough, just for me, just do it.
Fantastic.
Great.
Just do it.
We have to pay
Nike.
attention. Okay, so just to conclude, thank you everybody and our panelists for all of the insights. You will receive our survey. These are the takeaways we learned from the market. The first one, that is training is considered a strategic lever in the new normal as well. So it's something really, this is still very, very important. As we were saying during the lockdown, all organizations accept the digital learning challenge, and I had learned from this challenge. The digital maturity of company will be translated into a growing mix of training methodologies, so we are ready to do that. And the focus is on soft skills, but it's important to have active engagement and interaction with the trainer. So these are the insights. I hope you had also some other insights with interaction with the panelists. I thank you so much, and you will receive the survey with all the figures, data, whatever you want, so you can find the difference between Italy, Spain, Portugal, in the UK. So you can find out who is the better. I'm joking. Okay, thank you so much.
Chiara, thank you so much. You were great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a great experience, as always.
I think it's a great way to show one of our value, of Sego's value, sharing. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.